I say, so the Rebbe was discussing that there is a constant going out of Mitzrayim. Every day you go out of Mitzrayim, and the next day, the new elevation, you got to go out of that limitations as well. So the Rebbe continues in Ois, hey, V'hinei, say there is a Digula, this order of the redemption, the Seder of Geulah we discussed that the first thing is to go out of Mitzrayim. That happens in one day, but then we have to continue to go out. Shamas chil mitziyas Mitzrayim kipshuta. We start with literally going out of Mitzrayim. Ba'ad until shaboyim al yidei ha'avodah d'schiras yitzias Mitzrayim b'chol yom. Through the avodah of mentioning the exodus of Egypt every day. So when we mention Yitzias Mitzrayim, we come Ligula Hashlema to the complete redemption. Al Yidei Yale Hapiretz Lefonenu. Through the fact the one who burst out, Mashiach, who is Mibnei Peretz, Mashiach ben David, Mibnei Peretz, will burst out in front of it. So this is the order of this Man Hagolus until we come to the Geula HaSidar. But really, every day we have an Avodah Sa'odam, we have a similar. The Rebbe is going to explain now in Avodah Sa'odam, you start off going out of Mitzrayim until you come to the complete bursting out of all limitation. Yesh, Lugmosei B'chol Yom V'yom. So we have similar to it in every day and day. For in the beginning of the day, before the davening, a person finds himself in Mitzrayim, in Egypt, in limitations. In the limitation and the boundaries of the body. That's when you start the day. The pasuk says that. In the pasuk, it says that before you daven, the person is considered like a bama, which is like an altar, which is a prohibited, a high place, which you can't serve Hashem from there. As the pasuk says, stay away from a person whose soul is in his nose. Kibamen nechshavu. The soul is in his nose means someone who's arrogant. He's blowing up. It's high up, his soul. So we say stay away from that person. Kibamen nechshavu, because what is he really valued? But we teach the pasuk al tikra bame elo bama. So when the neshama is be'apay, meaning he just gets up in the morning, that's what we're translating it now. Neshama be'apay, when he first gets up, and the neshama is be'apay, and he has this soul in his nose just getting up. So then, ba'menach bam al tikra ba'mel bam shabbatchil asayoy in the beginning of the day, and neshama irak be'apay. It's only in his nose. Ve'eino mispashetas behaguf. It does not expand into the body. That's why he is considered then as a bama. A bama is a high, elevated place and represents worship not to Hashem. Which is really the full force, the strength of the limitation and the boundaries of the materialism of the body. And therefore, tchilas ha'avodah, he b'bchinas is kafir. The beginning of the avodah is in a level to subdue. How do you start off to get out of the mitzorim? You have to force yourself. That he overpowers, he strengthens himself over the materialism of the body and the animal soul, and over the other side. He has to push himself, force himself. Iskafia. Ba'ad shepoyil too. Later on, he influences, he impacts. Shagam haguv nefesh habam is yom yanu amen bal korchom. That also the body and the animal soul will answer amen against their will. They're pushed and they're forced. So they say amen against their will. They agree v'yisayu la'avoid as Hashem, and they're going to help serving Hashem, whether they want or not, lazy or not, but they're forced and they help to serve Hashem. Aval gamzeh, but when you do that, it's still not in the way that you've turned them around. This is the beginning of the Avodah. Gamzeh, hurak b'derech iskafia. It's only in the way of iskafia, only in the way of pushing yourself. And then later on, until shachakachu bo, then he comes to the level where he totally turns himself around. In his hapcha itself, the turnaround, there is force to turn around, get rid of the evil inclination, get rid of the Yetzer Hara. And then the second step is to get the Yetzer Hara turned around, and the Yetzer Hara will also want godliness. Within his hapcha itself, in the beginning, it starts off that my heart is hollow within himself, within inside him, so that means he doesn't have a Yetzer Hara. And afterwards, then he reaches the level of loving Hashem with all your heart, with both of the Yetzer Hara, with the both of the inclination. Shagam hayetzer hara gufa nepach l'toiv, that also the evil inclination himself is turned to the good. The first thing is you make it hollow so it doesn't exist anymore. Cholo bikir. But the second thing is to turn around. This is all part of turning it around of the Yetzer Hara. Ba'achar kachu magia. Himself turns to the good. This is bedugmas shuva shleima. This is similar to when you do a complete shuva, which is shuva me'ave. You do shuva out of love. Shezedoinis nasim kizochis. The avedas, the intentional sins become like merits. The Yetzer Hara becomes toivi, becomes a haftas Hashem. First kizochis, like merits, and then they become actual zochis. The Shnei Inyonim, so this is the two aspects. The first, the Malchama Bama with the Yetzer Hara Iskafia, and then these two aspects. Shebechol Yom every day Iskafia v'Ishapcha, Hein Bedugma, they are similar. Hagula the Yitzias Mitzrayim, the Gula HaSida, the redemption of Yitzias Mitzrayim and the redemption of the future. The Yitzias Mitzrayim Ksiv Kibarach Ha'am. But the Exodus of Egypt, there it says the people ran away. They ran away. Why did they have to run away? The evil that was by the Yidden was still enforced. They had to run away from Mitzrayim because if they delay, the Yetzer Hara would get them. So the Ra would get them. So therefore, because the Ra was betokfoi, they needed to run away from the evil. That's bechinas iskafia. That's the first, that's level of iskafia. That's similar to Yitzias Mitzrayim. But the future to come, we say the spirit of impurity, I will, of defilement, of tumah, I will remove from the land. This is dugmas. That's the first level in his hapcha, similar to my heart is hollow inside me. There's no more tumah. There's avi minores. And then higher than this, more than this. That also the ra itself would turn into good. That is similar to b'chol levavcha, that avoda with both of your inclinations. Ukamesha kosuv, as the pasuk says, oz epechel amim sofa beruro. Pasuk says with regards to the osid lovei, that level when the ra becomes toiv, which is like Mishnei Tzerecho, the pasuk says, "Os epich el amim sofa berura." I will turn to the nation a very clear language. Likroi kulam b'shem Hashem. They'll all be calling the name of Hashem. La'ov deishachem echa, to work Hashem with one shoulder. Shagam ha'amim gufa yahofchu lavodo yizborich. That also the nations themselves will turn around to serve Him. Blessed. B'omdu zorim v'rou tzonchem. So that the strangers will get up, the nations will stand up, and they will feed your sheep, meaning they will be serving the Yidden to serve Hashem. So that's turned them around. Instead of the Goyim Ra being in the way, interfering with the Yidden, that is B'chol Avavcha B'shnei Tzerecha, in Lasid Lavoi, the Goyim will be helping and Ro Tzeincha. Similar will also take place in the animals. So first, that Hashem says, I will arrest the evil animals from the land. I will remove them. Remove them means stop them so that they don't do damage. So they exist, but they're no damage anymore. Dagam shigam, and that's the first step. And then get them to actually serve the Chayis Rois. Dagam shigam oz tiyamitzi is the Chayis Rois. Even though there will be the existence of the wild animals, the bad animals, mikol mokoim lo yaziko, they won't do damage. So that's the first step. Not only that, they will support, they will help. And they will serve to be able to serve Hashem. So these Chayis Rois, not only won't they do damage, but they'll actually support and help in the service of Hashem, just like the Omdu Zorim V'ro Tzeinchem. The pasuk says, "V'gor zeiv im keves." It says the wolf will live with the sheep. And just like the cattle pulls, the one makes the grain and everything else, the lion will then be like the bakar. That from the wolf there will be a benefit just like you have from a sheep. And from the lion, like from cattle. So those animals that have the tendency to do damage, not only won't they do damage, but they will be benefiting. To the extent, even the nochosh, the pethen, the tzifoini, those are the different names of the dangerous snakes. Shamash Godel, say it will be a great servant, as brought down in the Gemara in Sanhedrin, and that is helpful. That instead of being the dangerous and the damaging, it'll become a Shamash Godel. Not only is that, also the snake will serve to avodas Hashem, but it's more than just serving. He'll serve in a great way. We call him the Shamash Godel, not only a Shamash. So in avodas Hashem, when you start off with forcing yourself until you get to the real level of his hapcha, to change things around, and you start serving the Eibush Yitzerecha, these are the two similarities to this man of Yitzias Mitzrayim, when the people had to run away, and then La'asid Love, where all the negativity will be turned around and will become positive, that even the snake will become a Shamash Godel, and the Ari and the Zev, they will all be useful. That's the level of his hapcha. Now, the Rebbe wants to explain the idea of k'mei tzeitzcha Meretz Mitzrayim Aránu Neflais. That while Yitzias Mitzrayim, we equate this, we call this Iskafia, and Aránu Neflais, we call this Ishapcha. And generally speaking, Ishapcha to turn around is greater. But there is a Maila in Iskafia also. Iskafia, when you wage war, is an ovid alikim. And as the Friedrich Rebbe says in the Maimer, that when you're at war, the Eberster is mivazvis oitzris, akmusim, especially when you're at war. So that means that at the time when you have to do iskafia, there is an additional force. So generally, ishapcha is greater, but there is a maila, and that's why we will also mention k'imei tzeischol love. Let's look inside Vo. Hine, av shebechinas ishapcha hi. Even though generally speaking, the level of turning things around is greater than iskafia. Iskafia means the ra is still there. You have to battle it. You have to fight it. You got to run away. Ishapka means you changed it around. It became toiv. So that's greater. But afa became yesh gamayle b'bchinas iskafia legabe b'chinas ishapka. There is still an advantage in the level of iskafia relative to ishapa. Move on Memashikosu Bitanya, like we understand from what it says in the Tanya. The Inyan Ovid Alakim who Dafke the idea of a servant of Hashem is specifically when he forces and he changes his nature. Umayla Zu, but this advantage of Ovid Alakim that doesn't exist by a complete tzaddik who is already not working because he's already avad. He's in the past tense because he is already not have. He doesn't have the avoid. He has to fight the Yetzer Hara. And specifically to avoid the diskafia, that brings the Yikora, the treasure of Kuchabrich in all world. To bringing down and the revelation of light that is in a level of exaltness. Only through Iskafia do you get the level of Oir, which is the level of Istalik, that is Ramimus, exalted, and higher, that comes through Iskafia Davke. As explained at length in the Hemshech of Yemel of Yuchvat, Moshul al-Zeh mimelech basar vadom. The example for this is from a king of flesh and blood. Shabishvil, by a regular king, by a human being, Shabishvil nitzochen ha-milchama, in order to win the war, who mevazviz as called a tzreisov, he goes and he wastes and he splurges all of his treasures for war. When you have to wage war, this is the war that you have to wage, the Iskafia war. The Bishonim kitikunom, when a melech in the regular years, when there's no war, in the not only does he not use them l'shum davar for any matter, but they're covered and they're sealed. Nobody can even see them, meaning in normal times, when there's no war, you're not privy to these great treasures. But specifically in the time of war, not only does he open all the treasures, more than that, he doesn't open it, but he splurges. He splurges these treasures without any measure or limitation. He gives them to the men of that were battling, to men of war, to the army people, in order to win the war. This is by a melech basar v'dam. So what is the parable over here for avodas Hashem? That there is a great treasure that Hashem doesn't reveal only when you need it for the war. The example for here from above, there is a level of a treasure, which is hidden and it's sealed. Nobody, from the eye of anybody, nobody can see it. As the pasuk says, "Ayin leiro so elikim zulasecha." No eye has seen Hashem. Besides you, nobody besides Hashem has really seen Hashem. That is hidden. But in order to win the battle, the war with the Yetzer, which is the service of Iskafia, then even that treasure is given and shall bizbuz in a way of splurging. And who gets this? Not the great officers, the commandments. This gets the posheter, the simple soldier. Giving this treasure is given to the people of this army, that the simple ones. Since their service to Hashem is with self-sacrifice. The Milo Mibedidos Vahagbolas Seichel, beyond the measure and limitation of the Seichel, they are ready to give up themselves for the war, for the battle. They work with Mesiras Nefesh and they don't take their Seichel limitation into consideration, but they give it up. They are ready to give up their lives, have Mesiras Nefesh, Lachein. That's why also the Eibishter gives it not with a cheshbon, even the bizbus. He gives it in a way of splurging, the maila, mikol medida v'agbola, beyond any measure and limitation. So Baalpi is based on this Yuval, Mashi Yazkiru Yitzias Mitzrayim, Gam Losid Lovei. We understand why they will be mentioning Yitzias Mitzrayim in the future to come. Now that we say that there is a bizbuz that you get from Milchama, a special that you don't get when it's a regular time, but especially in order to win the war, we understand why we'll be mentioning also Yitzias Mitzrayim, which represents his kafia, Baruch Ha'om, also in the future. Even though the revelation of the future to come are greater. Niflois Magiluyim Shoy Beitzis Mitzrayim. They're wonder Aránu Niflois, that they are wondrous next to the revelations that were in Tzis Mitzrayim. We understand why we'll mention that. Since how do we extend and bring down level of Eitzer? That is specifically in order to win the war. But in the future to come, how are we going to get this Eitzer when there's not going to be any wars? It's only given to win the war, and we don't have no war in the Osid Lovei. Since the Eibishter will remove the spirit of Tumah from the earth, there will be no battles, no war. How are we going to get the Eitzer? Therefore, Yaskiru Yitzias Mitzrayim Gamos will be mentioning the exodus of each of that. Bichdei, in order Sheyiya Gam Hamayla should be Iskafia, so that we also have the advantage of Iskafia. Hamshochas B'chinas Oitzer, to bring down the level of the Oitzer. Begam Hamshochazu, and also this Hamshocha, which is from the Eitzer, Tia Oz B'tachlis Agilu, will be then in the total revelation, Kechol Ha'inyonim de La'osid, like all aspects of the future, Le'ikonafay Merecha. That means even the highest and the greatest, the Chosum, the Eitzeris, Le'ay Le'roso, nobody has seen that. They too will come down, but since it's lost, it love it will come down begil. Kıymey Tzeitzcha Me'eretz Mitzrayim Aránu Neflois. And this is why we say, like the days you went out of Mitzrayim, I will show you miracles. Shebegeula ha'asida yiyeh beis hamaylos. In the future, redemption will have the both advantages. Hamaylo di iskafia. It has the maviskaf Kıymey Tzeitzcha Me'eretz Mitzrayim. Like the days you went out of Mitzrayim, there will be the Maila of what comes, the Eitzres that comes through Iskafia. V'amayla d'Yischapcha, and also the Yischapcha, which is Aden and Floy, see the miracles. Through our work and our service, our actions and our service in the time of exile. Generally, the service of the time of exile. It's in a way of self-sacrifice which is beyond measure and limitation. Shahare Bisman, Hagolus, Befrat, because in the time of exile, especially in the hills of Mashiach, Yesh, Moinim, Uma'akvim, V'Ribunisyonim. We face many things that prevent us and hold back. And there's lots of challenges, a lot of tests. We are constantly put in a situation in the hills of Mashiach in which we have so much resistance and we have so much things that prevent us, and we're challenged to do what's right and to serve Hashem. Ad lanisoyin. Specifically, the Rebbe mentions we have to test the lo yizbayish mipnei odom hamaligim alo, not to be embarrassed from people who make fun of the person on him. Became so that's why it's Mesiras Nefesh, because we have all these difficulties, and yet we don't consider any of these obstacles, any of these things that prevent. We learn Torah, mitzvahs, and we observe mitzvahs without any calculation. To such an extent that the Gemara says that even the people who are empty-handed, even the ones who are considered rekonim, they are empty, they're still malay mitzvahs and they're still so full mitzvahs, just like a pomegranate full with seed. The loy rak shehem mekayim mitzvahs. It's not just that they do mitzvahs, shehem malay mitzvahs, so they're full of mitzvahs. So hine, because we have this Mesiras Nefesh in this man hagolus, alidei ze yotzim hagolus. Berechush Godel, we go out from the exile with the great fortune. That's the Eitzer Chosum that comes through Iskafias, through Mesiras Nefesh. Rechush Godel shall mitzvahs, a great portion of so much mitzvahs. Rechush Godel shall Torah, and a great portion of Torah, which Torah is also a mitzvah, the Gam Torah mitzvahs. It's equal to all mitzvahs. So we go out with our great fortune of mitzvah and Torah. Since this great treasure of Torah mitzvahs, Moisiv b'hazuchus, that adds to the merits that the Yidden have. They have so much mitzvah, so much Torah. That adds hasteness also in the haste already. Achishano means very quickly. So even in the quick, it becomes even quicker. In a way, that they will fly with the clouds of the heavens, that very soon will be the true and complete redemption. It will be in the way of like the days you went out of Egypt, this pasuk in Micha that we started the Maimer with. I will show you miracles. You'll have the two advantages. The kivon shahagula hi alidei maasenu v'adesenu b'zman hagol. Since the geula comes through our work, our actions, our certain managolus, befrat because the Mashiach, especially because Mashiach will have. That's why the Maila lost lovay of K'mei Tzescha, because we're working on it now, because we're struggling. This brings the geula. L'chein tiyeh K'mei Tzescha. Meretz Mitzrayim, you'll have like the days of going out of Mitzrayim, Hamayla, the Iskafia. You'll get the Maila of Iskafia, you'll get that, what you give for Al Mochama, you'll get the Eitzres, the Rechush Godel, B'yachad im zeh, Yegam Aránu Niflois, and together with this, you'll also show you the miracle Niflois, Gam be'erech haniflois. It will be miraculous wonders also relative to the niflois. Oisus u'moisim shahoyu v'yitzias Mitzrayim. Those signs and miracles that was when we went of Egypt. That'll be even miracles next to those miracles. Kol gam haniflois, which is not only the exodus of Egypt, but everything that took place at the time. The wonders shahoyu b'shayis kriyas yamsuf. The wonder that took place at the time of splitting of the sea. Dagam shebekriyas Yamsuf hoyu giluyim nailim b'Yosef. Even though at the time of Kriyas Yamsuf there were great elevated revelations on a greater level, people saw, but yet who's saying Aden Niflois, who say even Niflois next to that. Everybody would show this is my God Van Veyu. So meaning that there was a revelation of tremendous magnitude. We're saying to the extent that we say that a maidservant on this ocean, when it split, she saw Mashalero and Nevi'im because they said Koi. The Nevi'im never are able to say Zeh. The Shivcha said Zeh Keli Van Vei because they had a vision. They experienced godliness on a most revealed level. And still we're saying Niflois in Ikolza Hoya Ala Yam. But this was on the Yam. Mashara Yam. Yam is a cover. Melubash Bebechenes Malchus, dressed in the garment of Malchus. Ubedugmas Hagilui di Tzis Mitzrayim Lifnei Kriyas Yamsuf Shahoyo Ala Pesach, similar to the Gilui Tzis Mitzrayim. Over there, Hashem Pesach Al HaPesach. Pesach is Malchus, as the Rebbe mentioned before. Pesach is Malchus, Viras HaMalchus. So before Kriyas Yamsuf, Yitzias Mitzrayim, it was still dressed up in Malchus Alayam. And also the Gama Gilu de Kriyas Yamsuf Hoyorak Lefisha. That was also a temporary. Kagilu Hoyos Mitzad Milmailo Vamatlu Eklilza. And the revelation was from above, and the lower were not a vessel for it. The Beklolus who Inyan is Skafia Blaisabka. Generally speaking, that is still a Skafia, not a turnaround. Bedugmas Yitzias Mitzrayim Shoysaboifin the Chibarach Ha'om, that is similar to the exodus of Mitzrayim, to run away because it's still a skafia, the Ra is still there. So it came Milmailo, and that's why Kriyas Yamsuf even didn't last. Now it's going to be Aránu Liflois. Mikivan Shezalebo Mitzadavedas Samato. Because over there it didn't come because of the service of below. It came Milmailo, was the Eibishter gave it to them. It had to be Kibarach Ha'om. It's not temporarily. It doesn't last. But in the future to come over there, the Eibishter will show the wonders. Niflois, Gam be'erech ha'niflois, Shehoya b'yitzias Mitzrayim b'kiriyas Yamsuf. Even wonders, even relative to the Niflois that were by Yitzias Mitzrayim b'kiriyas Yamsuf. Which means, Shagilu Yiyeh, the revelation will be without any garment. Also the people below, from their perspective, it will be a change, not from above, it will be a lasting, it will be permanent. And together with the Niflois, it will also be Kemei Tzescha Gam Hamayla, Kemei Tzescha Meretz Mitzrayim, to have the level of Tzescha Mitzrayim, those great revelations, but in a way of Gilui. Very speedily in our days, with the coming of our righteous Mashiach.